Bonjour and good morning. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and PLAR Math. And this morning we are going to continue on with Lesson 1. Just a reminder that this is Term 1B, Week 2 of classes, and this term goes from November 10th, last Monday, till January 23rd. So we will have a Christmas break in between the term, or in the term, I guess. I think 6 weeks of classes before Christmas break and then 3 weeks after the break. So you will get a break in there with the math. Classes are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 till 12. And there are 2 ways to participate in classes. So you can call in by radio, or to the station and listen via radio, or you can join using Zoom. The instructions for Zoom are in the study guide. So if you don't have a study guide, please contact me or your DEC. All PLAR English students are welcome to attend classes, so it doesn't matter what you signed up for, Radio, Zoom, or IL, you are still welcome to join classes. The material that we cover is the same for Radio, Zoom, and IL. Several ways to contact me: email, phone, or send a message on Facebook. All of my contact information is on the front page of the study guide, or the cover page of the study guide, as well as on every lesson. Students who were working on the PLAR from Term 1A, so if you were working on the PLAR History, Geography, and the PLAR English in Term 1A, you can keep working on whatever you were working on, either the key questions or the culminating activity, and continue to submit the work to me. The recorded classes from last term and last year are still available on the WASA YouTube channel. So if you're needing help with something and you just want to watch the classes, then you can go to YouTube, search in the search bar, type in WASA Distance Education Center. You'll get a list come up. Look for our logo and our name. Once you find that, just click on the name or the logo, either one of it. Then our channel will open up for you. When you once it opens, you will see random classes. So and these are not playlists, these are classes. So in order to see all of the classes for one subject, so if you're, for example, if you're looking for the PLAR Math, then in this list here, home, videos, podcasts, and playlists, you need to click on playlists. Okay. Once you click on playlists, excuse me, another page will open. And this page is the playlists for every subject that we have offered through WASA since last year. So you will notice that there are 2 PLAR histories, one from 24-25 and one from this year, 25-26. Same thing with the English. Last year's English and this year's English are there. If you're looking to watch the classes, it's better to watch this year's classes, the most recent version, because then if there are updates to the PLAR, any of the PLAR subjects, you will get those updates with these new classes. For the math, because we're just starting with the math, the playlist is for 24-25. There is a new one being uploaded, but not all the classes are there yet. So if you are working ahead of where we are, then you need to go to the 2024-2025 playlist and watch those classes. So once you get to find the playlist for the subject, click on View Full Playlist. Then you will get another menu which shows you the playlists, so the classes for that subject. So for the PLAR Math 24-25, you'll get all 5 lessons with all of the key questions. So you can easily look at the title, PLAR Math Lesson 4, Key Questions 20 and 21, or PLAR Math Lesson 4, Key Questions 22 and 23. So they're all listed by lesson and key question. So if there's a key question that you're working on and you get stuck on it, look for that key question in the list and then watch that class. Some classes will cover more than one question, but again, it tells you. So this one here, PLAR Math Lesson 3, Key Question 18, and Lesson 4, Key Question 19. Okay. Just a reminder that at the end of Term 1B, just like at the end of every term, WASA has student draws, one for students who earn a credit during the term and one for students who submit work. So for every lesson that you submit, your name will be entered into a draw. And for every credit that you earn, your name will be entered into another draw. So if you are a PLAR student who is working on the culminating activities, and you do all 5 culminating activities in one term, then your name will be entered into that credit draw 5 times and in the student work draw 5 times. Okay, so keep that in mind as you're doing your work. All PLAR students have the option of writing the culminating activity instead of doing the lessons and key questions. So it's up to you if you want to try the culminating activity instead of doing the lessons. The best way to determine if you want to do that, which route you want to go, is to think about how long you've been out of school and what you've been doing since you've been out of school. So if you are working in a job where you need to do a lot of reading, a lot of writing, then you could probably do the culminating activities and pass them without any problem. If you haven't really done much since you've been out of school, or you didn't do any high school at all, so maybe you only got as far as grade 6 or grade 8, then it might be a good idea for you to do the lessons, because that way you're going to get the information that you don't have already that will help you pass the culminating activities. So depending on what your background is, you might decide to do the culminating activity just to try it. If you pass the culminating activity, then you just get your credits for that subject and you move on to the next subject. If you fail the culminating activity, then you will have to do the lessons, complete the key questions and submit them for marking, and then you will write another culminating activity once the lessons are successfully completed. So you do get more than one chance to be successful with the culminating activities. For those students who do decide to do the lessons instead of the culminating activities, you will notice as you're looking through it that there are 2 types of questions. There are support questions and there are key questions. The support questions are the practice questions that you do before you do the key questions. Okay, so read through the information in the lesson. When you come to a support question, do that question. Then, once you're finished the question, go to near the end of the lesson. You will find answers to the support questions. So you can check your answers against the answers at the end. If you are doing really well with the support questions, making only 1 or 2 mistakes or no mistakes, then you move on to the key questions. Okay? Once the key questions are done, submit them to me for marking. Don't wait until you have finished all of the key questions for one lesson. So if today you do 1 key question, submit that key question to me. If tomorrow you do another one, submit that one to me. Don't hang on to them, because if you do and you're making a mistake with your key questions and you continue to make the same mistake, then you're going to have to redo all of the work. So do 1 key question and send it to me so I can take a look at it and let you know how you're doing. I usually get your work back to you that same day or the next day, depending on how much work I am getting in to mark and whatever else I have to do at work. But generally I can get it marked and back to you in the same day, depending of course on what time you send it to me. And then you get immediate feedback, and then you can start working on your next question and don't have to worry about making the same mistakes. Okay, there are several ways to submit your work. The first way is to give it to your DEC, and your DEC will send it out to us here in Sioux Lookout. If you don't have a DEC in your community, you don't have a learning center, basically you're on your own, you can submit your own work. So just because you don't have a DEC and a Learning Center doesn't mean you can't do WASA courses. You can. There are lots of ways to get work to you and for you to get work back to us. Just remember, if you are submitting your own work, be sure to write your name on your work, because if you send it to email, the name that we have on file for you, the name that you applied with, might not be the same name that's used in your email. Or if you're sending your work through Facebook Messenger, your Facebook name may not be the same, and so we won't know who the work is from. So make sure you put your name on your work. Okay, then you can either scan, if you have access to a scanner, and email your work to studentwork@nnec.on.ca and CC to me. Or if you have access to a fax machine at work or at the band office or whatever, you can fax it to our toll-free number. Okay, if that doesn't work for you, then you can use your smartphone. And with your smartphone, you can either take photos of your work or scan your work using the built-in scanner and email it to that same student work address and CC it to me, or you can send your work using Facebook Messenger. So post the pictures on Facebook Messenger and send them to me that way. Okay, if you live in Sioux Lookout or the surrounding area and you come to Sioux Lookout fairly often, you can stop by our WASA office on Front Street and drop off your work either in our outdoor mailbox, which is located at the side of the building in the WASA parking lot, or you can ring our doorbell at the front door and give your work to the person who answers the door. And the last way, you may come up with others, but is to use Google Docs. So you can use Google Docs to complete your work, and then you can share the link to that document with me. Again, make sure that it is a shareable link. If you just send me the link and I can't open it, then that's not going to work. So make sure, check your settings and make sure the link is shareable. Okay, so that's it for our announcements. So let's do a quick review of what we've talked about so far. So far, we've been talking about integers. And as I mentioned, the first day of classes, in lesson 1, we are basically going back to the basics of math. So we're starting out with the very basics of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and division. We're starting out with doing those operations with integers. So remember, integers are the whole numbers, negative and positive and 0. Integers do not include fractions or decimals. So there are rules when you are adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. Same thing for everything that we're going to be doing. There are rules that you need to remember and use. So the addition rules tell us that if we are adding two positive numbers, then our answer, our sum, is going to be positive. So the sum is the answer to an addition problem. So a positive number plus a positive number equals a positive answer, or the sum. So for example, 4 plus 8 equals 12. 4 is positive, 8 is positive, the answer is positive 12. So the answer, or the sum, is going to be greater than either of the integers that you're adding. So 12 is greater than 4, 12 is greater than 8. If you are adding two negative numbers, then your sum is also going to be negative. Now, when we look at negative numbers, remember, the bigger the number, the smaller the value of the number. So in -6 plus -3, we've got two negatives. Our answer is going to be negative, and we just add the numbers. 6 plus 3 equals 9, so -9. -9 is actually smaller than -6, and it's also smaller than -3. So when we look at our integers, negative integers, the further away that you get from 0 to the left, the smaller the value of the number. The further away from 0 you get going to the right, the larger the value of the number. Okay, so that's why we say two negatives will give you a smaller negative. but all you're doing is adding the numbers together and keeping the sign. Okay, the next part is where it gets tricky. So when you're adding a positive and a negative, so we've got two different signs, you use the sign of the larger absolute value number. So look at your numbers. So in first example, we've got 12 plus negative 7. So the first thing you're going to do is look at your numbers, 12 and 7, so the number without the sign. 12 is bigger than 7 and 12 is positive. So that tells me right away that my answer, my sum, is going to be positive. Then I subtract the numbers. So 12 take away 7 is 5. So my answer is positive 5. Okay, next example, we've got 10 plus negative 14. So 14 is bigger than 10. My 14 is negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Then I subtract. 14 take away 10 is 4. So my answer is negative 4. And you always do the bigger number, subtract the smaller number. Okay, if you're adding a negative and a positive, do the same thing. Use the sign of the larger absolute value number. So negative 13 plus 16, again, I'm going to look at the numbers first. 13, 16, 16 is bigger than 13, 16 is positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Then I subtract, 16 take away 13 is 3. Negative 9 plus 7, 9 is bigger than 7, it's negative, so my answer will be negative, and then I subtract, 9 take away 7 is 2, so my answer is negative 2. So once you've done this several times, you will get used to it and you won't even really have to think about it. It will just come naturally to you. Okay, so that's adding integers. For subtracting integers, if you can add integers, then you can subtract integers, basically. So what we have to do, though, is make some changes. So for 4 take away 7, we keep the first number, which is 4. We change the sign, which from the minus sign to a plus sign, and we change the number being subtracted to its opposite. So instead of doing 4 take away 7, we are changing it to 4 plus negative 7. Now we have an addition problem, so we use the addition rules. So I look at my numbers, 4 and 7. 7 is bigger, 7 is negative, so my answer will be negative. And then I subtract. 7 take away 4 is 3. My answer is negative 3. Okay, B, we've got negative 1 minus 9, so our negative 1 is not going to change. We are going to change our minus to plus, and we're going to change positive 9 to negative 9. So now we have negative 1 plus negative 9 using the addition rules. Both of the numbers are negative, so our answer is going to be negative, and we add the numbers. 9 plus 1 is 10. C, we've got negative 3 minus negative 5. So first integer, negative 3, will stay the same. Change subtraction to addition. Change negative 5 to positive 5. Or, as I mentioned before, you can do it the shortcut. Where's my eraser? So doing it the shortcut, we can go, well, I've got negative 3 minus minus 5, so my negative 3 is going to stay the same. Minus negative changes to positive, and then my 5. So negative 3 plus 5 is what we end up working with. Now we have an addition problem where we have a negative plus a positive. Look at my numbers, 3 and 5. 5 is bigger, 5 is positive, so my answer is going to be positive. And then I subtract. 5 take away 3 is 2. So my answer is positive 2. Okay, so there are a few steps that you have to take, but just remember the rules and use them, and you should have no trouble. Take your time. Don't try to rush it. All right, so moving on. So we've done adding integers, subtracting integers. Today we're going to look at multiplying and dividing integers. Multiplying and dividing integers is actually easier than adding and subtracting integers. The rules are simpler. So as I mentioned in our first class, there are some videos here for you to watch. Math Antics videos. They are very what would you say, entertaining, I guess, videos, but they're also very good for teaching. So if you're interested in multiplying and dividing integers, there is a Math Antics video for that. So you might want to watch that as well. Okay, so in your lesson on pages 12 and 13 is information on multiplying integers and how to use a calculator. And you can use a calculator for multiplying integers just like for adding and subtracting. There's also a multiplication table here that you can use as well if you don't have a calculator. And if you want to use a multiplication table, so for example, if you're multiplying 4 times 5, go down, find 4, then go across to find 5, and then where they meet, that's your answer. 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, so that's how you use a multiplication table. And then, of course, on the next page is support question number 3. So again, do that support question. Once you're done it, check the answers at the end of the lesson to make sure that you are doing it correctly. If not, go back and read the lesson. If that doesn't help you, go watch the class, the recorded class on YouTube. If that doesn't help you, try the Math Antics class. If that doesn't help you, contact me. Okay, so there are lots of ways to get help. All right, so integer multiplication. The rules for how to multiply and divide integers are very similar. So if you can do one, you can do the other. So here are the rules. Number 1 is multiply their absolute values. So the absolute value is the number without the sign. So for example, as I mentioned, positive 3, the absolute value of positive 3 is 3. Negative 5, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So it's the number without the sign. So you're going to multiply the numbers, and then step 2, determine the sign of the final answer. So when we're multiplying, the answer is called a product. So once you have multiplied the numbers, then you have to figure out, is this a positive product or a negative product? So the rules for figuring out what the product is going to be are that if the signs of the two numbers are the same, the product is always a positive number. So if you're multiplying a positive times a positive, your answer is going to be positive. If you're multiplying a negative times a negative, your answer will also be positive. So same sign, plus a positive times positive, negative times negative, your answer will be positive. If the signs of the two numbers are different, then the product is always a negative number. So a positive times a negative will give you a negative product. A negative times a positive will give you also a negative product. So different signs, negative answer or negative product. So example 1, multiply 4 times negative 7. So first, get the absolute value of each number. So the absolute value of positive 4 is 4. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So now we're going to multiply 4 times 7, which will give me 28. Now, is 28 a negative 28 or is it a positive 28? So to figure out that, we have to look at the numbers that we're multiplying. We multiplied a positive times a negative. So those are different signs. One is positive, one is negative. What's the rule? If they're different signs, the answer will be negative. So my answer is negative 28. Do not forget the sign. If you forget the sign, your answer is wrong because there's a huge difference between a positive 28 and a negative 28. Okay, example 2. Multiply the integers. Negative 15 times negative 3. So negative 15 times negative 3, the absolute value of negative 15 is 15. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So I multiply my numbers. 15 times 3 is 45. And now, is it a positive 45 or a negative 45? Well, they're both negative. They both have the same sign. So if the sign is the same, the answer is positive. So my answer is positive 45. Example 3, find the product of the 3 integers below. So now we've got a positive 3 times a negative 8 times a negative 2. So what we do here is we go from left to right when we're working. So that means I'm going to multiply positive 3 times negative 8. So the absolute value of positive 3 is 3 times the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. 3 times 8 is 24. Now, is 24 negative or positive? Well, I've got a positive, I'm multiplying a positive times a negative, so different signs, my answer is going to be negative. So now I've got negative 24 times negative 2. Okay, because I can't forget about that negative 2 there. I have to have that as well. So now I've got negative 24 times negative 2. My absolute value of negative 24 is 24. Absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So I've got 24 times 2, which is 48. And I'm multiplying a negative times a negative, same sign, so my answer is positive. Okay, so I just multiplied the 3 numbers. And these are pretty easy numbers to multiply. You could probably do it in your head. Of course, after you've done more practice with it, you will be able to do it in your head. But you just have to remember the rules. Okay, multiplication symbols. So most of the time when we do multiplication, you're going to see the X. Oops, this doesn't want to go in the right spot. Okay, which we call times. So A times B. That's what you're probably most familiar with. But other symbols can be used as well. So you can use a dot or an asterisk. So A dot B means times A times B. A asterisk B also means A times B. You can also use parentheses or brackets. So you'll notice with these brackets, there is nothing between the brackets. There's no sign, no plus, no minus, no times, nothing. So when you have that, when you have just A in brackets and B in brackets, that means multiplication. If we're working with variables, which we will be, and variables are basically letters, when we're working with just letters and we put the letters right beside each other, AB, that means A times B. So all of these ways right here are ways to write A times B. Factors and products. Factors are the numbers that you are multiplying together. So if you're doing 4 times 3, 4 is a factor, 3 is a factor. And products are the answers. 4 times 3 is 12. So the factors are 4 and 3, the product is 12. So a factor times a factor equals a product. Or a factor times a factor times a factor equals a product. All right, so let's do some practice with, if I can get this to move, multiplying integers. So the first one, negative 5 times 8. So we've got a negative and a positive. So right away, I know my answer, because the signs are different, is going to be negative. Now I multiply the numbers. 5 times 8 is 40. Okay, so my answer is negative 40. So some of this you can do in your head. Some of it you might have to think about a little bit. So number 2, we've got negative 4 times, oops, I don't know why my dots are moving. Negative 4 times negative 4. I've got the same sign. They're both negative, so my answer is going to be positive, and 4 times 4 is 16. Number 3, 11 times negative 3. Different signs. Positive times a negative, my answer is going to be negative. And I multiply my numbers. 11 times 3, 33. Okay, so again, look at the signs. You can do the multiplication, the number part first, and then do the sign. I like to figure out the sign first and then do the multiplication. That way I don't forget my sign. Because if you start with the numbers, and you just multiply the numbers, you might forget to put in the sign. So it's better to figure out the sign first. And if it's a positive number, as I mentioned before, you don't need to put it in. But if it's a negative number, you must put it in. Otherwise, you'll get the wrong answer. Okay, so number 4, negative 9 times negative 5. So I've got a negative times a negative, which I know is going to give me a positive. I'm not going to put it in this time. 9 times 5 is 45. Number 5, 7.7 means 7 times 7. So 7 times 7, they're both positive. I'm just going to do basic multiplication. 7 times 7 is 49. Number 6, negative 12 times negative 5. So here's an example of just using the parentheses for math. And once we get further on in the lessons, the math will be written like this, the multiplication. So you need to get used to seeing it like this and realizing that this is multiplication. Okay, so I've got a negative times a negative. I know a negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. Same sign, positive answer. 12 times 5 is 60. Number 7, 5 times. So we've got the asterisk. And the brackets are here just so that we don't have two signs running together. So if you have 5 asterisk minus 40, it can get confusing. So that's why we put the brackets around the negative 40. So we know it's not subtraction, it's actually multiplication. So we've got a positive 5 times a negative 40, different signs. My answer is going to be negative. 5 times 40 is 200. Okay, number 8, 10 times positive 11. They're both positive, even though the 10 doesn't have a plus sign in front of it. I know it's positive because it's not negative. So they're both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. 10 times 11 is 110. Number 9, negative 3 times negative 7. I've got a negative times a negative, so my answer is going to be positive. 3 times 7, 21. Number 10, negative 1 times 9. Again, I've got different signs, a negative and a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times any number is equal to that number. Number 11, 8 times 10, both positive. My answer is going to be positive. 8 times 10 is 80. Number 12, negative 8 times negative 7, both negative, so my answer is going to be positive. 8 times 7, 56. Okay, continuing on. Dividing integers. So in your lesson, beginning on page 15, and on page 16 is information on dividing integers. Support question number 4 is on page, I said 17, right? No, 16. Do that support question and check your answers at the end of the lesson to make sure you're doing them correctly. And I was going to mention, hang on, that you can use a calculator when you're doing these multiplication problems. Just remember to use the integer key when you're doing the problems. So put in the number first. So for example, 45, make it negative. So here, negative 45 divided by positive 9. Put in the number 45 first in your calculator, then hit the integer key to make it negative 45. And then whatever you're doing, division or multiplication, use that sign. And then in this case, positive 9, so you just do the 9. You don't need the integer key, and hit equals, and you'll get your answer. Okay, negative 36 divided by negative 4. Put the number 36 in. Use the integer key to make it negative 36. Use the division or multiplication, whatever you're doing. Then the next number that we're working with is negative 4, so you put in the 4 first, then the integer key to make it negative 4, and then your equal sign to get the answer. Okay, so you can do this work on a calculator. Okay, so integer division. Now that you've learned how to multiply integers, dividing integers should be a breeze. And the reason is because they follow the same rules. So with multiplication, same sign, positive answer, different sign, negative answer. So same rules for division. So step one, same thing, divide their absolute values. So that's the value of the numbers without the sign. Step 2, determine the sign of the final answer. And for division, the final answer is called the quotient. If the signs of the two numbers are the same, the quotient is always positive. So a positive divided by a positive will give you a positive. Negative divided by a negative will give you a positive as well. If the signs of the two numbers are different, the quotient is always a negative number. So a positive divided by a negative will give you a negative. A negative divided by a positive will also give you a negative. Okay, example 1. Divide the two integers below. 56, divided by negative 7. So first, find the absolute values of the two integers. So the absolute value of negative 56 is 56. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So now we are going to divide those two integers. 56 divided by 7 is 8. Finally, determine the final sign of the answer or quotient. Because we're dividing two integers with the same sign, negative 56, negative 7, then our answer or quotient, it will have a positive sign. So negative 56 divided by negative 7, negative divided by negative will give us a positive, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. Example 2. Why are my division signs all moved? I don't know why that one's there. Divide the two integers below. Positive 24 divided by negative 8. So absolute value of positive 24 is 24. The absolute value of negative 8 is 8. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. Now, what's my sign going to be? I have a positive and a negative, different signs, so my answer is actually going to be negative 3. Example 3, divide the three integers below from left to right. That's why there's two division signs. That one's supposed to be over there. Okay, so left to right, just like with math or with multiplication, you have to go left to right. So left to right, I'm starting with negative 252 divided by 7. Positive 7. So 252, absolute value of negative 252 is 252. Absolute value of 7 is 7. So 252 divided by 7 will give me 36. Now, is my 36 positive or negative? I had a negative 252 and a positive 7. So different signs means it's going to be negative 36. So now, negative 36 divided by negative 9. So I have a negative divided by a negative, which is going to give me a positive. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So when you have more than two numbers, two integers that you are dividing or multiplying, do start from the left, moving to the right, and multiply just two at a time to get your answer. Don't try to do them all at once. Definitely don't start in the middle and go to the end, because you're going to end up with the wrong answer. So take your time when you're doing that. Okay, signs for division. Just like having different signs for multiplication, there are different signs for division. So for division, generally you are used to the division symbol. Okay, the bar with a dot above and a dot below. You can also use a backslash to indicate division. So A backslash B. Okay, you can also use a fraction, A over B. These three ways are ways to write division or divided by. So keep those in mind, because again, as we move on through the lessons and we get up into algebra more, we are going to be using a fraction more for division. So keep that in mind, that a fraction also is division. We're going to start looking at fractions next week as well, and we'll talk more about fractions then. Okay, so dividend, divisor, and quotient. So with multiplication, we had a product times a product will equal, a factor times a factor will equal a product. So those are your multiplication terms, factors and products. For division, it's a dividend, a divisor, and a quotient. So the dividend is the number you are dividing up. So that's going to be your bigger number. The divisor is the number you're dividing by, and then the quotient is the answer. So we have a dividend divided by a divisor will give us a quotient. So in the problem, 20 divided by 4 equals 5. 20, the bigger number, is the dividend. 4, the divisor, the number you're dividing by, and 5 is the quotient, the answer. Okay, so you don't really need to remember all these terms, but it's a good idea to know them, especially the answer, quotient, and product, because you might be at some point asked to find the product, or the quotient of different numbers. So it's good to know what they're talking about. Okay, so some of this stuff, for some strange reason, has moved around. I think that's it. Okay, no, a couple more up here. Oops. Okay, I think we got it. All right, so let's do a little bit of practice with dividing integers. So negative 18 divided by negative 6. So we'll follow the steps. Find the absolute values of the two integers. So the absolute value of negative 18 is 18, divided by the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. So now we divide. 18 divided by 6 is 3. And we've got a negative divided by a negative, so our answer is going to be positive. Okay, so you can do these steps, or you can just kind of do it in your head. Well, I know that negative 18, the absolute value is 18, and to divide that way. Number 2, 40 divided by 8. Okay, we've got two positives, so right away I know my answer is going to be positive, and 40 divided by 8 is 5. Number 3, negative 96 divided by 8. So the absolute value of negative 96 is 96. Absolute value of 8 is 8, or positive 8 is 8. So now I need to divide 96 divided by 8. I'm going to do my sign first, because I've got a negative and a positive. That means that my answer is also going to be negative, because the signs are different. So now I'm going to do the numbers. 96 divided by 8 is 12. So my answer is negative 12. Number 4, 64 divided by 16. So remember that backslash means divided by. 64 is positive, 16 is positive, so my answer is going to be positive, and 64 divided by 16 is 4, so positive 4. Number 6, 42 divided by negative 14. So this time I have a positive and a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. So then I divide my numbers. 42 divided by 14 is negative 3. Number 7, negative 21 divided by 7. So I've got a negative divided by a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. And 21 divided by 7 is 3. So my answer is negative 3. Okay, number 8, 54 divided by 9. Okay, and now they're written as a fraction. And like I said, get used to seeing it written this way, because this is the way that once we get up into algebra and beginning in lesson 3, this is the way you're going to start seeing division written. So 54 divided by 9, they're both positive, so my answer is going to be positive. 54 divided by 9 is 6. Number 9, 64 divided by 4. Negative 64 divided by 4. Negative and a positive, my answer is going to be negative, and 64 divided by 4 is 16. Number 10, we've got a Negative 36 divided by a positive 3. So I know this is going to be negative because I've got different signs. One's negative, one's positive. And 36 divided by 3 is 12. So my answer is negative 12. Number 11. Negative 28 divided by 7. I've got a negative divided by a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. Number 12, negative 56 divided by negative 7. A negative divided by a negative, same sign. My answer is going to be positive. And 56 divided by 7 is 8. And number 13, 96 divided by 12. These are both positive numbers. So my answer is going to be positive, and 96 divided by 12 is 8. Okay, so again, multiplication and division have the same rules. If the numbers that you are multiplying or dividing have the same sign, then your answer is going to be positive. So positive times a negative, positive times a positive will equal a positive. Negative times a negative will also equal positive. If the signs are different, your answer will be negative. So a positive times a negative will give you a negative product or quotient, or a negative times a positive will also give you a negative product or a negative quotient. So same sign, positive, different signs, negative. So here, oops, answers to the support questions. Make sure you do your support questions. Answers for support questions 3 and 4 are there for you to check. Then for key questions, key question 3, find the product. So you'll notice that we've got some that are written with the X for multiplication, and then the rest are all using brackets. They are all multiplication. So when you're asked to find the product, that means that you have to multiply. And remember, when you multiply, same sign. Equals a positive product. Different signs equals a negative product. So remember that your product is the answer to a multiplication question. Then on the next page, whoops. Key question 4, you're asked to find the quotient. Finding the quotient means that you divide the numbers. So negative 72, so again, the first 4 are written using the division symbol. The next 4, I had to count them, are written as fractions. They are all divide. Okay, so don't look at them and go, oh, I don't know what to do here. Yes, you do. Divide. Okay, so the top at the top it says find the quotient. So when you say asked to find the quotient, it means that you divide. Same rules here. So if your numbers are both have the same sign, so both positive or both negative, your answer, your quotient is going to be positive. If the signs are different, one negative, one positive, then your quotient is going to be negative. So if you look at them, again, like I mentioned, do the sign first. Because if you don't do the sign first and you just divide the numbers, you might forget about the sign. So negative 72 divided by positive 8, different signs, my answer is going to be negative. Negative 55 divided by negative 5, same sign, my answer is going to be positive. 18 divided by negative 6, different signs, my answer is going to be negative. 24 divided by 4, positive, my answer is going to be positive. 39 divided by 3, both positive, my answer is going to be positive. 20 divided by negative 5, we've got different signs, my answer is going to be negative. Negative 60 divided by positive 20, different signs, my answer is going to be negative. And H, negative 30 divided by negative 6, same sign, my answer is going to be positive. So do that part first, figure out the sign, then divide your numbers. And you can use a calculator if you want to. Okay, so if your division skills aren't very strong, you can use a calculator. You can figure out the sign first and then just divide the numbers, the absolute values, to find the number part of your answer. Okay, whichever way works better for you. So that is it for our class today, and that's our last. This is our last day with working with integers, or just working with integers. We'll be working them, of course, later on. But on Tuesday next week, we will start working with fractions. So make sure you understand integers before we move on to fractions, because fractions can be a little bit trickier. So be ready for that. Okay, that's it for our class today. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend. Miigwech.